Awesome. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey, what's up, High Low News family? Welcome to another episode of the Can We Talk podcast, our show where we talk to dope people in the community doing dope things. And today is no different. As always, I'm excited to have very important conversations with you because our community needs to know what's happening. And the organization that's coming on today has some information that you need to know. They're friends of the show. And so without further ado, I would love to welcome Mr. Bill Diggs, Executive Director of the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and Gail Birks. Hey, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Doing great, Janey. Always good to see you, and thanks for your time. And Gail Birks, as usual, glad to be on with you.
It's always my pleasure. Always.
Always. And Gail, I want to make sure I give you your title, CEO of CMA Enterprises. So definitely wanted to make sure I give you your things and your flowers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Good. You know, want to welcome you guys on, and I want to hop right in because the conversation that we're having today is very important because people need to know you guys are doing something really interesting. You're having an event next week that people in the community, especially people who are millennial age, we need to be there and learn all about it. So I want to jump right in and start this conversation. And before we do, I want to just give them a little bit of background on you guys so they understand the authority that you guys are talking from. So, Mr. Diggs, tell us about your role you play with MDEAT's efforts to reduce socio-economic disparities in South Florida. And Gail Birks, you could chime in after he's finished speaking.
Well, again, I'm the Executive Director of the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. We consider ourselves to be the go-to organization for economic development in the Black community. Our goal is real simple, and that is to create and to understand and to foster, opportunities of improvement in our community. That's our goal.
Gotcha. And Gail, what is your role in all of this socioeconomic development in South Florida?
Well, I own, as you mentioned earlier, CMA Enterprise Incorporated. And my firm has been engaged by Bill's agency over at MDEAT, is what we call it, along with my partners to conduct a disparity study, which helps them to understand and set their strategic plan and legislative plan of action for the Black community in areas of education, business and economic development, community development, health and wellness, faith-based. So we're covering the gamut of quality of life for the Black community. And it is really important that we hear from you. The great thing about it is that we are a local firm addressing local issues. So we know where all the bones are sitting, and we have the Rolodexes and the relationships to have the conversations that need to be had.
Gotcha. And Gail, can you tell us a little bit more about the socioeconomic disparities that the Black residents in Miami-Dade County have been facing and how that has affected their quality of life?
Wow. We have we've seen quite a bit. Without giving away the full study, which will be published soon, we've seen job disparities. We've seen huge retention challenges for our young adults. As soon as our young people can find that window of escape, and I do use that word not loosely but tightly, they're gone. They don't come back because the fear is there's nothing here for us. So health and wellness, our communities are getting sicker, and it's more and more expensive for our working professionals to afford health care. And so you're seeing more and more people going to the public clinics because they can't afford, a traditional doctor. You're seeing inequities in the education programs that our students crave and long for, but aren't getting. You're also seeing discipline disparities for Black students compared to their Caucasian and Hispanic counterparts. So there are, and then there are the ones that we always hear about in the disparities of business procurement for Black businesses. What we're also looking at, and then there's the housing issue of people being literally forced out of their housing because of pricing, because of taxation, because of conditions. So we are seeing, Janey, just really everything. And this is a 10-year study. So we're looking to see if there's further deterioration or if there is, in fact, improvement. Some of the statistical reports that are out there are saying, well, there's a reduction in employment, the unemployment rate. Well, we're also seeing that there's a reduction because people are not able to get hired and they're taking it themselves out of the system because of the loss of faith in the system. So, you got to know, or they're leaving it all together, going into entrepreneurship. So there's no reason to apply for a job if you're in entrepreneurship. That's a whole different realm. So, we're seeing continued, if not accelerated, deterioration. Much of it is coming about because of gentrification. The targeted areas that we're working with that are assigned to Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust are getting smaller, not because of some of the things that you might think about that the statisticians would put out, but the urban areas that are targeted, TUAs, targeted urban areas as they're called, are prime properties now for the developers because you've got rising tides. We are landlocked, which is no surprise to anybody. We're in a peninsula. So the last horizon are the TUAs. And so, there's a huge disparity. The people are being—
And what's a TUA?
Targeted urban areas.
Targeted urban areas.
Yes.
And Mr. Diggs, do you have anything to add to that? Like, what are some disparities that you're seeing in the Black community, and how is that affecting quality of life?
Yeah, it is. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, of course, are the transportation modes, right? Because you can continue to see that Miami is a service-based industry with travel and tourism. But consequently, many of our folk that are working within those sectors are having a hard time getting the jobs because of the transportation hubs. There's a real need to develop a line from the airport up through the north side of town, through Opelika and the Miami Gardens. And so, rapid transit is not moving as fast as it should be. And then also, too, there's a major disparity within our educational system where some of the new technologies that are being taught at some of the other larger white universities and white high schools, are being treated as possible electives at some of our Black schools. And so, when you talk about trying to stem the tide in regards to educational reform, there are major issues where, there's been a pop-up of charter schools, where many of our schools in the urban core are under-enrolled. And because they're under-enrolled, they're also being undereducated. And so, we're concerned not just about today, but we're concerned about the future, because as we look, as Gail Birks so adequately said, the trend is going in the wrong direction for us, whereby the majority of Miamians that happen not to be Black that are moving into our communities are seeing, meteoric growth. And then they're now beginning to kind of push the lines of gentrification deeper. There used to be a time when it was just Coconut Grove, and now we say that there's the West Grove, which is Black. There used to be a time where downtown was downtown, and now it's Overtown. And as you can see, Overtown has literally been bought up, and the folks that are in those communities that used to be all Black are not that way anymore. They're even gotten smart where they're beginning to build buildings where the center of the building is in the middle of it, and they don't have access to the streets for a lot of different reasons. And so our challenges are housing, economic development, and education in a major way where we're losing ground versus gaining. And we've got to build a strategic plan within our organization, which we're responsible for doing, to kind of make sure that we right fit what the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust needs to be about as we go into the next century.
I'm sorry. And I think the other side of that too, Janey, is that there is a sense of preparedness that we as the Black community need to have so that we can find our voice to deliver that message and the confidence to support an organization like MDEAT so that they're not standing alone, you know, and so that's important and it will be part of the recommendations as well. And the consolidation of other organizations to come together and speak as one voice. You see that a lot in other communities, but you don't necessarily see that in the Black community here in South Florida and specifically Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys share a lot of great insights. And I totally agree with you, especially being somebody born and raised in Miami-Dade County and just seeing the different trends that are happening. Mr. Diggs, I want to come to you and I want to ask you, what are some policies that MDEAT have been putting in place to address some of these disparities over the last 40 years?
Well, you know, a lot of what we've done, right, has been based on the ordinance that has created the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, because it itself has gone through a metamorphosis of sorts. It used to be the Metropolitan Miami Action Plan Trust, and now it's the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. And for a long time, you know, we were just, you know, trying to make sure that we help with teen court, trying to make sure we help with housing. And so to be quite frank with you, from a policy perspective, I've been in now for a little over a year and a half. This is really our first jaunt into, you know, talking about developing policy, because I think that's the key. As we listen to people, we need to change the minds and thoughts, but also the rules in regards to how the Black community engages, right? And so, you know, to be honest with you, over the years, we've got to do better at doing exactly that. And so that's the goal from this study, is to take a look at it, figure out what it needs to be, and then let's talk about policy. Let's talk about, you know, it's not rent control, rent management. Let's talk about using the dollars that we've been using in the past for down payment assistance, and let's use it to truly buy and build and construct housing, which we haven't done before. So it's our responsibility to finally get there.
Wow. Yeah. And you know, we've been covering a lot of the things that you guys are doing too. So can you tell us some of those initiatives that you guys have been doing on that end of your work as well?
Yeah, we can. You know, we took a look at our down payment assistance program, and this is not to knock anybody, but our down payment assistance program can give you up to $28,000 toward the down payment for a home. When I initially started, it was around $14,000. So we doubled that award, and it is a forgivable loan. But the thing that we realized is that a large part of the money that was coming into MDEAT to be able to create this subsidy program was going to non-Black folk, right? And it's just the nature of the beast, because the money's given to these real estate and the mortgage loan officers, and they would go out and they'd find clients. And the majority of them didn't look like us. Well, we're a Black agency. And so I said, well, this doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, if we're a Black agency and we've got this money, we're supposed to be helping the Black community. We've got to do a much better job at it. So what we did was we developed some other programs, because as Gail talked about earlier, gentrification is real, and you know that. The problem is that if Ms. Johnson, who's in her 60s or 70s, owns her home, and you know, her grandson or her son doesn't want to live there anymore, it's because either it's in a bad area or it's in disrepair. Well, what we realize is that those things go hand in hand. If we repair the home, if we repair the homes that are in the neighborhood, then consequently the neighborhood becomes more safe because it becomes more appealing to the eye. So we developed a program now, you know, that's a rehabilitation program that can give Black families up to $50,000 per home to repair some of the things in your house that can be repaired. And those are the same dollars that we're using for our down payment assistance. And so it's more focused on the targeted urban areas. We've done a better job marketing this program to the people within the urban core to allow for them to be able to do that. And we just started this program, and we now have great results from some of the things. We've repaired houses, roofs, electrical, you know, driveways, you know, we've done painting. And so we're really excited about that program. So that's one on the housing side. And then also, too, we recognize that we've got to do a better job of building and developing structures within the urban core. So we created a lending program for developers and or for construction companies to be able to finish up some of these things that are maybe underfunded. And so we developed a fund to be able to do that with the help of a Black organization called the Black Business Investment Fund, where we've set aside close to $5 million to allow for them to be able to access it, to help Black developers to build Black buildings and housing and commercial structures within Miami-Dade. First time that we've ever done that. So we are starting to get the pulse of the community, and we understand that. And we've also changed our teen court program, where instead of us just being a kind of a reclamation program for kids that have gotten in trouble with the law, where it's a pretrial diversion program. When a kid gets in trouble, they come to us and we kind of divert them out of jail by doing these small things. We realize that there are certain issues that are making that are causing these kids to be in trouble. Either truant issues, behavioral issues because mom and dad's not working, they come from a poor background and they need money, or they're just in a situation where they're lost. And so, we've now developed a youth services program that's giving them hope. So we're now managing the whole family to a certain extent. And don't get me wrong, this thing is engaged through other departments as well. So we're now beginning to work with our counterparts, within the county, because all these services have always been there, but it's about wraparound services. So we've gotten smarter to figure out what we need to do with some of the other departments so that we can consolidate, with our focus being, we want to love these children. And so from our perspective, we think it's different. We think it's a fresh approach. And by the way, we do know that it's working. So we've changed some things within our organization to try to make sure that we're setting ourselves up, for the time that Bill Dick is going to be retired and these young millennials are going to be running the organization. We want to make sure that we get it right. But again, this new study that we're doing is going to guide us, so once we're done with this, we're going to go into a strategic planning mode and really make sure that what we're thinking is right. And if we need to tighten it up, then this new study is going to give us the ability to be able to have a roadmap to do so.
I think one of the things that we are also doing on that same note with youth, again, and I think a lot of it has to do because we are a local firm, and that is we dealt with 3 groups of student internships for this engagement. We had students running telephone poles from Clark Atlanta University. We had students on the ground here from FIU Architectural School. And we had students in South Dade who are part of the Greater Gould's Optimist Foundation who assisted us, and they were paid. They were paid well. And it gave us the opportunity, and it was within our budget at CMA Enterprise. And it gave us the opportunity to introduce our students of color to something other than working at the neighborhood fast food restaurant, that there are professions that are out there that can be lucrative for them, that can be enjoyable for them, and that they can make an impact. I can't begin to tell you how proud we were of our young people who really showed out for us in a good way.
Yeah. And just switching gears a little bit, I want to dig into the disparity study because you guys have a Transform 305 listening session that's coming up, and it's open to the community. Gail, can you speak on the insight and the purpose of this event and what attendees can expect? And Bill, you can chime in as well. Like, what can people expect, and why are you guys having this event?
Good question, and thank you for asking. This event is part of our community engagement. This is phase 2 of a 3-phase endeavor that MDEAT is embarking upon. And our position at this phase is to gain the engagement of the community. This lets you tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, and what we desire, and basically what we need to get ready to be part of the prosperity of Miami-Dade County. And we tell everybody when they come in, do not hold back. We want to know what are the disparities that you're witnessing or experiencing, not only in the job that you're in, but in your community. We want to hear from our young professionals and understand about their quality of life, because we're hearing those stories as well. And then we also want to hear from you in terms of your ownership of the transformation, which is why we're calling it Transformation 305. What is the transformation and the role that you want to participate in to make Black Miami part of all of Miami-Dade County? So, we simple questions, but rich conversation. And that's what we're doing in these sessions. And people aren't holding back. The ones that have shown up are telling it like it is.
Yeah, they really are. And I think that what I'm excited about is that, like Gail said, we've been all over this community doing these listening sessions. And again, it's a three-part, type of role, right? I mean, we have been speaking to a lot of different, if you will, decision makers in our community, trying to understand those that have control of nonprofits and large business units, kind of what their thoughts are. And so, it's helping to craft what we do. And I want to say that, that we think that we've got the model right? We believe that it's important that we hear and that we discuss. And listen, we're not going anywhere. I mean, our job is going to always be to do this type of thing. This just happens to be the piece that we're dropping into our disparity study among many, many, many other pieces that are going to help to make this study complete. But we're going to continue to do this because I think that, we can't sit in a bubble and make these decisions. I mean, we have action committees for the three areas within our organization. We've got one for housing, we've got one for economic development, and then we have one for youth services. And so, those micro units, if you will, play a major role in helping us to shape policy. Yeah. And we're getting somewhere. We are creating policy right now because of some of that on the youth services front. We've noticed that our kids are being arrested at a rate higher than others, being Black children. And so we're developing policy right now. As a matter of fact, there was another meeting just today discussing the results of a study that we did around youth arrest, in our community. So we're continually guided by that. And so this study will not go on the shelf anywhere. It's going to be a living and breathing document, which is very, very different than almost any disparity study that you've ever seen. It's going to be an actionable, guide to what we want to build ourselves to be.
It's going to close the gaps of conversation. Those areas that Bill just mentioned, those are typically the ones that everybody looks at. But looking at the health and wellness, the community development, so those particular areas, bringing in organizations, we created a database for the organization that is a collection of influencers, organizations, agencies that serve throughout Miami-Dade County, but particularly in these areas. And so it has been a holistic approach. The study is only done every 10 years, but the impact of it begins because when we get to the next 10 years, we want to know that improvement has happened and occurred, and quality of life has risen as opposed to deteriorated and shrunk. And that's the whole purpose of what we're setting up for MDEAT.
Mr. Diggs, I wanted to know, because even us having this conversation is we want to make sure that Black millennials have a say and have a future in what is the plan for the future of Miami-Dade County. And I know I wanted to speak to you and get your words on why it's important for Black millennials to be involved in this disparity study, and more so specifically why they need to show up to the event, the 305 transformation session at Gwen Cherry Park next Wednesday.
Yeah, and you're right. And thanks. It is Wednesday on the 13th, and it's going to start at 6 p.m. And Gwen Cherry is at 70th Street and 22nd Avenue. Listen, I mean, if we're going to build this thing right, we have to build it for people that do two things. One, that can embrace what we're building, right? And then two, we've got a responsibility to build the next set of leaders in our community. If you are, a working young professional that wants to stay in Miami, then we need to understand that. I mean, right? If we're looking to build housing, then you need to tell us where. You need to tell us what the cost ought to be. We need to talk about the fact that rent is too damn high, right? And we need to talk about, kind of how we develop policy around that. Because, by the way, there are other cities that have tackled this issue, and some have done it successfully. And so if you are one of those folk that have good information to share, then we need to know, because none of us are clairvoyant, right? I can tell you what I think my lifestyle needs to be at 60 years old, but I can't tell you what yours needs to be at 35. And if I'm going to be building this organization, I'm going to need, the demand of the pressures that cause you to either want to stay in Miami, or, like Gail says, do like many of our children have done, hers and mine both. They've left here and said, we'll check in with you later. We'll come down to the party. I mean, even, the discussion around the beach in South Beach, and the fact that, many of us that live here just don't go.
Yeah.
And why is that? And should we're now attempting to engage Miami Beach as an organization, MDEAT is, and we did it for the very first time. And we think that we are going to have more discussions with them. And I want to be able to know, from your perspective, are we barking up the wrong tree? Or do you think this makes sense? And by the way, if you want to be a part of those discussions, then come join us, because we are absolutely thinking that we should not cut off a major part of the county, because it's always been that way. We have to change that mindset. The best way to do it is to do it through a legislative and policy perspective, so that we can be heard, and then also understand that there are going to be new rules that are going to be applied.
And here's a quick one. I'm always doing the news thing on my computer, and I saw today that the Clevelander is going to be renovated 30-story affordable housing. So that's an advocacy piece right there. You've got young professionals to take that live, work, play, 30 stories. So what's the accountability on that to make sure that there's equity in renting and or rent to own arrangements? Yeah. So, things are happening if we're paying attention. And the key to it is all going to be, there's two sides of the disparity study: the readiness of the Black community, and then the readiness of the service providers that are out there to serve. So where do we meet in the middle? And that's where Bill is going to be leading that charge through that advocacy and that policy, because public impression does drive policy. It does.
Yes,
it does. And we as a Black community have got to make that connection.
Definitely. And for people who are watching, whether they can attend the event that's happening on Wednesday, or they want to be involved, like, how can they be a part of the study, and how can they have their voice heard? Is there a website? Is there something that they can log into to be able to share their insights on what they want to contribute to this project?
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, we've got a flyer that's out there, and we'll make sure that we post that. But you can always just go to miami-dade.gov and / the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, and you can find us there. The beautiful thing about being a government agency is that it's ubiquitous. The problem with being a government agency is sometimes on the private side, we're not as effective as we want to be. But at the end of the day, you can reach us at our office at any time, because we do have these action committees, and individual citizens can show up. You don't have to be a member of it. You can just come, because everything that we do is what they call in the sunshine, right? Mm-hmm. So getting involved and participating with us, you can always just contact me at william.diggs@miami-dade.gov, and we'll make sure that we reach back out to you. I need to hear from young folk that are in our community, because we want to make sure that we build this right. So william.diggs@miami-dade.gov, you can contact me there, and we can get you set up any way that you need to.
Are there surveys that people how are you guys doing this study? Like, how are you collecting your data for you to be able to do your study?
Yeah, we had surveys. That process and that segment has now ended, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
So this really is our final opportunity to hear from you. But I would say still, please take Bill up on that offer to send in your comments to him. He's given you his email. But we ran a survey for 6 months, not only on the webpage for MDEAT, but just literally out throughout all social media. And we need to hear from you. I'll just put it like that. We need to hear from you, because we don't want people to say, well, nobody spoke up, we didn't hear from anybody, so there must not be a problem and everything is okay. It's not. It's not. So let's let people know it's not, but that you are here to be a part of that transformation 305, so that it doesn't disappear, but it grows to the benefit where Black people in Miami-Dade County are included in the prosperity of Miami-Dade County.
And what happens after this listening session? So you guys have done the studies. You guys are now listening to the community. What's next in the process of the disparity study? Where do we go from here?
We will include those comments into our final study, and we will submit it to Mr. Diggs and his board for approval and submission to the Board of County Commissioners. We hope that that happens rather quickly, so that it will not stop them from going forward to begin their implementation of the recommendations that we're making for this. It's just beginning. And we do anticipate that the communication will improve with the organization to keep you all educated and informed. And it will also give you the opportunity to continue to assist in the feedback. And I'm sure, knowing Bill, that he's going to keep that window of opportunity open for those kinds of conversations. It's not over. It's just the beginning.
And when would the study be complete, and when can people see the final results of what you guys have found?
So here's where we're at with that process. Our board will be meeting later this month, and then we will develop that with them, and of course they'll take a vote. And if there's some edits that or questions that they have, they'll have the ability to be able to do that. We anticipate being done with this, though, in October. I mean, we're close, right? And so once that happens, we're going to release it, out to the public. So it will be a document that everyone will be able to see. And that's what our work begins, to be quite honest with you. The study is the beginning of the work, as Gail mentioned. After that, it's about implementation. And so we've got a lot of thoughts. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting with some other young folk this coming week to say, hey, what do we do next, right? Here are my thoughts. This is what I think. What do you think? Because it could be that we break off into work groups. But again, we've got the action committees that are there. But there are many Black organizations that we want to engage to be, to really have some hefty discussion around how we work together. This study is not monolithic. It's going to take all of us from a universal perspective to make sure that all the things that are touched on are going to be given to different people to help us to work on and figure out how we do it. It's a very inclusive project that's going to begin once we have this document.
Yeah, it's not about reinventing the wheel. Because resources are there, and it's a matter of getting everybody in the same room to make the conversation happen. We are a collaborative of Black professional service businesses. We have architects, engineers, urban planners, facilitators, trainers, process improvement people. So they are all people of color. And we all live in South Florida. And we compete as a capable, competent business, which makes a lot of folk worry because they don't know, one, where we came from, because we work behind the scenes. And like I said, I've been around for 33 years. And our team brings over 250 years of experience.
Oh, wow.
To our clients. We are national and international. And that's something unheard of here in South Florida when it comes to this type of engagement. Most firms are from out of town.
Yeah.
And they go to the library, they go to Google, and that's it. And you never hear from them again. But it's important for us to make sure this is done right because we live here.
Yeah.
We know the people that we polled. We know the people that we interviewed. We know the people that walk into those in-person sessions. We spend more time reminiscing and hugging folks that we know because we've been here so long. We are not strangers. So that brings a bit of trust that other firms can't do or can't bring. And that is why we have been able to get the kind of information, whether we have 5 or 25 people in the room, we get the information we need.
That's what's up. And when you guys have these results, please come back to High Low News. I would love to pull out some of the headlines and break that down for the community so they understand what the results of this study means and what that means, you know, in the future for MD and Miami-Dade County as a whole. So please come back, talk about those things.
We will, you know, and because the other thing is this, I mean, you know, Gail and some of her teammates are academicians, right? I mean, this study is over 300 pages long, but the executive summary is not. And needless to say, I'm stuck in the executive summary because I just, you know, my team is going to read all of this and come back to me with captions. But, you know, the footnotes of this, as much as I'm going to read every page, I'm, you know, the executive summary is done in such a way that it's small bites that we can all eat off of. And so we'll share that with you. We'll make sure that you have everything that you need to. Of course, we consider you to be a partner, and because, you know, you're speaking to the community that we know we need to engage and have deep relationships with. So this is important to us too, Janey.
I appreciate that. Before I let you guys go, I want you to plug the event one last time. I have the flyer here. So Gail, if you want to just give the information and let people know where they'll be able to find the Transform 305 listening tour, and just plug all the information just one last time so we could give them the information that they need. Well,
you know, I'm going to let Mr. Diggs brand this one.
Okay, let's go. Mr. Diggs.
All right. You know, this study is committed to enhancing economic prosperity by conducting a vital disparity study to monitor socio-economic conditions countywide. The Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust invites you to share your valuable insights during our listening session at the NFL Yet Center at Gwen Cherry Park on Wednesday, September 13th at 6 p.m. Don't miss the chance to make a difference. And then you can also, you know, RSVP with us for this event. But we want you to just show up. People like being anonymous and having discussions. We're okay with that. We just want to hear the truth when you get there. But please come by Gwen Cherry Park Wednesday, September 13th, Wednesday, September 13th at 6 p.m.
And is there any significance for having the event at Gwen Cherry Park at the NFL Yet Center? Is there any?
We wanted to be in the neighborhood. We wanted to make sure that we were there where people would be familiar with this place and they could get to easily. So 70th and 22nd is home, you know, for Liberty City. And if you're in Coconut Grove, you can just come straight north. If you're in Opelika, you can come straight south. And we think that it's a very advantageous place. They got a big gymnasium. We'll have a lot of room for people, you know, to come. And so we'll have space for everybody, and they got adequate parking. It's just the best place for us to be right now.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to have a community listening session and you're not in the community that you need to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That part. And I appreciate you guys, the intention of how MDEAT is moving and the initiatives, and even this study. I really applaud you guys and give you kudos, and Gail for your hard work as well. I feel like you see the care and the inclusion. And a lot of times in the past, I didn't feel like as a young person that my voice mattered to the powers that be. So I really appreciate you guys for being even strategic to even come and talk to me and my audience about what you're doing and saying, hey, your voice matters, what you think matters, and come share that with us so that can, you know, help shape the future of Miami-Dade County for Black people here. We're 20% of the population and we need more inclusion. And I think things like this helps us get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I've never been this age. I was once young like you, and I know you won't believe me if I tell you how old I am. But
look, Black don't crack. I always tell people you could be 25 or 65. I have no idea, and I don't even try to guess Black people's age.
I'm gonna tell you, I am 63 years old.
Oh, wow. Come on,
And,
Queen.
yes, girl. So I want you all to understand, but I'm 63, young at heart. And one of the things, like Bill had said before, I am not going to always want to do this, which is why we're doing the internships. But one of the things that we want you all to understand is that, number one, the fight is different than what it was when I was 35 and when Bill was 35, which was yesterday. It is more intense. And what you need to do is be able to align yourselves with those of us who now sit in the elder seats so that we can share with you the war stories and teach you the rules of engagement. That's going to be the key for us going forward in this advocacy and this legislative policy setting, because if you don't, we will get left out. You will get left out. And that's not on my agenda.
There you go.
It's just not.
Hey, bookmark that. Bars. I appreciate that. You dropping bars, you giving us all the gems. And these are the conversations, and I love this baton passing, this wisdom. You know, Mr. Diggs, always tapping to you, you know, sidebar, like, hey, you know, so I really appreciate you guys having this conversation and having this open discussion. We all have to be there. If you can't be there, you could call, there's information on the website, but definitely let's just try to make this event. This is so important. Before you guys go, Gail, can you give people your information and how they can connect with you?
We are contractors with Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. So the contact for us is through Mr. Diggs.
Gotcha. And so what's the best way for people to connect with you, Mr. Diggs and MD?
It's william.diggs@miamidade.gov. You can always contact me through email, and I respond to, you know, almost all my emails within 24 hours, other than budget season, which it is right now. You know, we're out here begging for money through the county, and that situation is going well. But other than that, I mean, most times within 24 hours, I respond to my emails. You know, you can absolutely, you know, do that, and I'll either, you know, reach you back directly, have a member of my staff to do so.
Gotcha. Well, guys, this has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate you for coming on the Can We Talk podcast, powered by High Low News. Please come back. You know, you're a friend of the show, Mr. Diggs. Gail, now you friend, you family now. So come back. Any updates, any information that our audience needs to know, please come back and share that with us. This is the stuff that I want to make sure that I'm getting out there to my community and to my generation. Guys, please be at the event. Let me put the flyer up again for you guys, just in case you didn't see it. It's Transform 305 Listening Tour at Gwen Cherry Park, taking place on September 13th at 6 p.m. Make sure you are there. Don't be square. Okay, let's go. Let's support, and let's do this. This is for us, so we need to be there and have our voices heard.
On time.
Yes, on time.
Great. Janey, thank you. Always good to see you. And Gail, you know, I love you. We'll continue to do this work down.
All right. Thank you, Janey.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Guys, that was an amazing conversation. I want to give another huge thank you to Bill Diggs and Gail Birks for coming on to talk about the disparity study powered by MDEAT. Guys, you want to be at the Transform 305 listening session that's happening next Wednesday at Gwen Cherry Park. And we're going to have this on our website as well with a click-through link so you can register or find more information about MDEAT and their disparity study. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for our email newsletter. Follow us on social media. We're on all the things. We're all the places. Connect with us. There we thank you guys for following us and contributing to High Low News and engaging with us and helping us to grow. Tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell your neighbor, tell everybody so we can continue to reach more people in Miami-Dade County and South Florida as a whole. We're sharing news for Black and Brown millennials and the Black community as a whole. Again, this has been another great episode of the Can We Talk High Low News podcast. Y'all see I got marbles in my mouth. Don't excuse me, y'all. It's just been one of those days, but it's been a great conversation and another great episode. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.